welcome down to Horn with Dick Armey. Leader Dick Armey has been with us for 3 segments already. We've been talking about growing up in Cando, North Dakota. His time as a professor, PhD economics, and being in the academic world, if you will. And then one day decides he's going to run for Congress and does and wins. And now we're going to focus on 1994 when the Republicans come into the majority through that November election. So we're talking to Leader Dick Armey. Leader Armey, welcome to On the Horn.
Oh, it's nice to be back.
So Leader Armey, you got that hat on, and I read about it in your book. So talk to us about that amazing hat you got on. I'm actually jealous. I'd love to have one, but I can't wear a hat. I got the wrong shape of a head for a hat, but you look darn good in one.
Well, the hat does have a fun story. I had given a speech at the Reagan Library and identified myself as a Goldwater baby and talked about my staff all having been Reagan babies. And then, of course, that was talking further about the Reagan legacy. And Nancy Reagan, Mrs. Reagan, she liked the speech enough so that she sent me afterward a copy of Reagan's hat that was made specially for him by the Stetson Hat Company. And she'd seen me admiring it. So I got that hat and I was wearing it all over the place. You know, my wife all of a sudden got her upset about it. She said, "You can't wear that hat all over the place. You're going to ruin it." So she went out and she bought me this hat. Well, she brings it home. I open the box. A beautiful hat. I loved it. I look at it. It is a 200X Stetson. That's the 200. The X's are the grade of the beaver. Now, just by comparison, the typical cowboy will have, once in his lifetime, maybe a 10X Stetson. If he has a 10X Stetson, he will only wear it to church. So this is a 200X Stetson. So I remember one of my friends in the Congress was a third-generation owner of the largest Western wear store in L.A., and he had never seen a 2X Stetson. I've never seen another one. So I like to believe I got the only one in captivity.
You know, Leader Armey, the brim and the way it comes together is quite remarkable. You know, it's just a perfect shaped hat.
Yeah, well, not perfect. Here, I'll show you something. Look at this part where it turns up in the back.
Yeah.
That's from putting it in the overhead bin when I ride in airplanes. So my wife doesn't like it one darn bit.
So most of these old gunslingers wore them a little cockeyed on the side a little bit.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah,
you should wear that. You're kind of a Texas
too.
gunslinger. You kind of
straighten out. You got to tip it a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it myself while I'm doing it. I got to do it just there. Get it there.
There you go. There you go.
Right.
There was a lot of great Westerns. I grew up being a Bonanza fan. In fact, my father retired at 53 and ended up watching Bonanza for, I'd say, about 25 years. And so he was a Bonanza fan and all those old Westerns. A lot of these North Dakotans, as you would know, are big Western fans, as they are in Texas. So it was a natural for you to end up in Texas, I assume.
Yeah, I have to be a little careful when I'm going around real cowboys because they'll look at me with a little grin on their face, say, "Well, we don't call you a cowboy until we see you ride." I'm in trouble there. My dad was a wonderful, good horseman and a great trainer and a great rider. I rode some. I think I was passable, but I certainly was not the horseman my father was.
You know, in your book, you did talk about training horses because when you were younger to make money, you had to help break some horses and did some training, correct?
Oh, well, my dad was a great horse trainer. He let me hang around him. You know, I was privileged in that regard because I never once in my life could afford any of the horses my father had, except one old horse he got for $200. The horse's name was Jasper, a little old cow pony, no papers, no background, no history, but the sweetest horse you ever saw. So I loved Jasper, and I could have afforded him. My dad tried to give it to me when I went to Oklahoma, but, you know, I was a graduate student. I couldn't even afford to feed a horse, let alone enjoy it. So, no, I never took Jasper. I always miss the opportunity. It's always a wonderful horse.
So, Leader Armey, before we quit talking about cowboys and hats, Texans have a suspicion of guys that wear cowboy boots if they're, you know, in a suit sometimes. I've heard stories over the years. You got to be careful when you're coming down in the suit with cowboy boots in Texas if they don't suspect you're a real cowboy. Is that a true statement, or are you familiar with that kind of Texan
There's
mentality?
a little skepticism. The bikers have the same attitude. And, you know, I ride motorcycles, and we take a look at these guys who put on all their leather and strut around and frankly make a big show about being a biker, and then we watch them try to start off and tip it over. So yeah, that's right. I love that expression, though. Yeah, we don't call you a cowboy until we see you ride.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But I could ride. I rode a bucking horse out out west of Amarillo one time. You know, you might guess, sociology professors, they're pretty pernicious. Put me on this horse, and I got on that horse to strut Appaloosa. He strutted around, and then all of a sudden he started across that pasture right next to the highway. He gave off a bucking show that you never saw. I had cars stopped watching this guy. Finally got him settled down and rode him back to the house, and the wife came out steaming. So, what are you doing on that horse? I said, well, he wanted me to ride it. She said, did he tell you he's been afraid to ride it for 2 years? I forgot that.
So you stayed on it, though, and rode him back.
I stuck to him. He wasn't necessarily that strawberry road, but he's a buck, and then he was worth leaving alone for sure for that. But it was a good ride, and I managed to not humiliate myself.
Well, I've done my share of being humiliated on horses. I'm an Arabian fan, so I've ridden a lot of Arabians, and they don't like to cross water, so I've ridden the Badlands a lot. And I recall one trip I got thrown 20 sometimes crossing a little stream in a creek, and so I'm kind of a horse guy, but my wife's the horse person really. So Leader Armey, we're going to pivot to 19.
Okay, let's take the hat off now.
Okay, I like that hat. Okay, we'll take it off. So Leader Armey.
I love that hat. I love that hat.